So I'm inside of Premiere now. It has these different workspaces at the top here. I even have Rob's space. This is my own custom space that I made. You can go up, if you can't find it, window workspaces. And editing is the one that I recommend. So when you're in editing, you'll see there's editing. If you want to color correct it, there's color over here. If you want to throw on effects, there's effects. And then they shuffle the windows around in different locations depending on how you want to work. But editing is the one that I recommend. You import your media here. You have your effect controls up here. What I'm first going to do, let's say you're bringing in graphics, you're bringing in an album cover or a series of album covers. What do I want to do? That is what this tutorial is going to be about. So I'm going to go down here to this new page icon, this new item. And I type in, and I'm going to make a new sequence. Now, what I'm just going to tell you to do is go digital SLR, 1080p. You can use any of the 24p or the 30, the 24 frames per second or the 30 frames per second. Just remember, use this one or this one. So digital SLR, 1080p, DSLR, 24 frames per second. Just select that. So now there's a sequence here, and this basically a sequence is a timeline inside of Premiere. And then you can see here in the new item area, in the project area, it made a new sequence. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this media area, and you can import. If you can't right click, the long way to do it is you go File and Import. So those are the two areas. Then I am going to go to the folder where I have all of my classwork here. So I'm going to pick some of these images here and import those. So what I've done is I've imported still images. I haven't imported any video. Video is a whole other lesson. What I like to do when I'm inside of Premiere, I'm going to move this up. I can drag and move my windows around like this if I need to expand them, just by dragging on the side there. It's really handy, especially if you have a small monitor. So this is going to get filled up pretty quickly if I'm bringing in a ton of JPEGs or videos or audio files, right? So make bins. So I'm going to make a new bin. I'm going to call this images 1, let's say. So it's like day 1 or whatever, and I can drag them all in here. I'm going to shift select these, drag them in. I use bins to keep myself organized all the time. So there you go. Likewise, if I was going to bring in music, to bring in some music stuff, I'd right click, new bin, call that music, and tomorrow I'll bring in some music. Right now, here are my images. Now I want my preview. This is your preview up here. This is really small because I made this, I moved these windows around. I'm going to now drag this back down here so that my window is big. If you're experiencing laggy video, this here may be on full resolution. So if I recommend going half or quarter resolution while you're editing inside of Premiere. When you export it, it will export it in full resolution. So you can, I'm just going to use a quarter resolution now. So here's my sequence or my timeline. This thing is called a scrubber. Then what I do is I start selecting images over here and I drag them over into the timeline here. That I don't know where that went because I'm not zoomed in enough to see it. So here is where you can zoom in and zoom out on your timeline. You can just pull this thing here. Or you hit the Z key, the Z key, and you can zoom in that way. Hold the Alt key and zoom out. Or down here, you pull this around to zoom in and zoom out. So you will see something real. This has got this all jumbled up here right now. See this area here are your tools. Your main tools, the two main tools you're going to use all the time are this move tool or selection tool and this razor blade tool. Those are the main ones you're going to use. There are all sorts of things you can use the other ones for, but these are the ones you're going to primarily use. If I go to the selection tool and I want to make my still image longer, I click and drag at the end, and I can pull that and extend the duration of the clip or the JPEG, or make it smaller. So make it bigger, make it last longer, go smaller. So what I've done, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth than I would normally when I'm just showing you how to actually do things. But this is a sequence. Like as I said, remember I set it up as a 1080p. So if I go up to sequence, I go into sequence settings here. The frame size is 1920 by 1080 pixels. So you might say, why is this all cropped off, right? So my image is bigger than 1920 by 1080. So it's come in. When I pulled it into the sequence, it's cropped it because the image, my PNG or JPEG, is bigger than the screen size. So if I want to make this shown, if I want to see all of the image in the screen, this is where I go. I select the clip. I select effect controls at the top. If you can't see effect controls, you can go window. And there's effect controls. So if it's clicked off, that's how you look at it. Make sure it's checked and you'll see it. The other main area that you're going to be using is effect controls all the time. So get used to this area here. Open up motion, and there is scale. So if I scale that back, I will now see my image because the image was larger. So hopefully that made sense. The image was larger than the sequence settings. So this image was larger than 1920 by 1080. So to make that revealed in the window here, I just scaled that down to 42. The other thing I'm going to show you is you can create motion. So let's say this was at 100. This is the way it was. I can also change the position a little bit. If I drag up here, I can move everything around in the motion area. I can animate all of this. So the scrubber is here, and here's a JPEG. The scrubber is also mimicked up here in the effect controls area, and there's the JPEG. So if I move the scrubber up here, it also moves it down here. If I move it down here, it also moves it up here. So I'm going to move the scrubber to the very beginning. This thing here, little circle that looks like a stopwatch, is keyframe animation. So I click on that. You see here, it put this thing I call a diamond. That started the keyframe animation. So if I put that keyframe right here, and I move my scrubber over here, and I scale that down to 40, let's say, and then I motion that up, I drag that position up, you see it added another keyframe. So the starting keyframe was at 100 and whatever the position was. Now this keyframe is at 40 and whatever this position is. So if I take this scrubber and move it back here, oh, I forgot to, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to keyframe the scale. So I just enabled the keyframe on the position. I didn't enable it on the scale. So I selected this at 40. How I'm going to correct that right now on the spot here is 40. I'm going to enable the keyframe for the scale right here. Click it. There's the scale. Move this back over here. Make this 100. And now put that keyframe in there. Now I've animated that motion. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that with another image. So I'm going to go down to this next album cover. Move this over here. Select the clip. So you see when I'm selecting this clip here, it has my keyframes because that's the keyframes that I put on this album art. When I select this clip over here, there's no keyframes on it because I'm on the effect controls for my new image. I'm going to drag this over and make it a little bit longer. I'm going to repeat that. So I'm going to go scale, enable the position. So the keyframes are started there and there. Move the scrubber over. Make this 40. Well, maybe that's too small, so I make it 50. That's good. And if I want, I can move it off to the side. So I've keyframed the scale and position of this one. And here's how that goes. There you go. And that is how fast you can get animating still images inside of Premiere. Just with some keyframes, scaling and positioning the keyframe of everything. Okay, so that's if I want to put keyframes on things to create some sort of motion. Likewise, in this one here, if I wanted to rotate it, same thing. You'll always see this keyframe stuff here, this little stopwatch icon. So let's say if I come here and I want to rotate it, I'm going to click here and enable a rotation. Move this over here and then spin it around. This is going to go super fast, but you get the point. There you go. You could literally spend all day bringing in still images, bringing in photos, and flipping them and trying different things in Premiere and getting your head around keyframing. The other thing I'm going to cover inside of Premiere right now is I'm going to drag 2 more images over into the timeline here. See how I scaled out here so I could see where I'm going? Move the scrubber over here. I'm going to pick this one. It's too short, select it, go to the end, make that longer. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to hit the Z key, zoom in here, hit the V key. Those are the shortcut keys. Make that longer. Okay, so now I'm going to extend this. Now we know if you want to change the scale, it's up here in the motion effect controls area. This image came in smaller than the other one, so I'd have to scale that up if I wanted to make it around the entire screen there. Same with this one. Scale that up slightly. I might actually just go right into the head on this one and move this down. Okay. So now if I want to transition between this clip and this clip, a kind of a cooler transition, I can enable transitions right here. So the main areas inside of Premiere you're going to be using your project area here. Your project area controls all of your files that you're going to drag over into your sequence timeline. There's the effect controls here. If you need to scale something, rotate something, they're all up in here. If you want to keyframe animate it, it's all up in here. The other third main area that you're going to use in Premiere is this effects area. It's right in here. And again, if you don't see these windows, if these effect controls, effects, and let me show you this. So this double arrow will take me back to the project area. If you don't see it listed, it lists it all over here. But if you don't see the window open inside of your workflow, I'm just going to remind you, this is where everything's located. There are video effects you can throw on things. There are video transitions. And then this is the next area, transitions. You can go here. There are a million bad transitions, but there's some cool transitions. So the only way you're going to eliminate them is try them. Here's how transitions work. I'm going to throw a page peel. I'm going to drag it over here and put it right there. So I'm going to show you that one more time. I'm going to delete. So I have the transition on there. If I want to get rid of the transition, I delete it. It's gone. Don't accidentally delete the clip, right? Command Z that. So my 2 clips, here's the split area there. Pick a transition, drag the transition over here between 2 clips, and now you have a transition on there. You move the scrubber over, and there it is. That's how you can use transitions. I'm going to press play. There you go. So if I want that transition to be faster, I select the transition, not the clip. See, when I'm clicked on here, this is highlighting the clip. I'm going to highlight the transition. You can even see it up here in the effect controls. I can now control the transition up here. If I go to the end here, hover over the end, click and drag that, it makes the transition smaller. That means it's going to go faster. Let's see how fast that went. Likewise, if I go over here, I drag the transition like this, it will make it last longer. So that's how transitions work. And they all work the same. You just go find the one that you think will look cool, drag it in here, see what it looks like. I'm going to go back. See how I can't see my projects? I want to go back to projects. I can't see it here right now. Just click these double arrows. There's my project. So I'm going to drag this, zoom this out. I'm going to add another couple images here, and I'm going to throw on some video effects. Although they're still images, you can still throw video effects on here. I'm going to use these two images. They seem to relate. Click this image. Let's scale this up. Let's go through a bunch of these things. Let's scale this up so you don't see it. Let's enable the keyframes there. Let's make this smaller. There you go. I have my keyframe there. Nice and slow. That's cool. Now, if I want to throw and check out a video effect to throw on that, I can go over to Effects. And here are some video effects. I'm going to open up video. I'm going to open up image control. I'm just looking at, I see black and white. Let's throw black and white on there. So I have a black and white image control on my image here, right? So here it is. Effect controls is where you can control everything. The minute you drag an effect on there, it appears in the effect controls, and you can just turn this off and on. Okay, I'm going to turn this off for now, and I'm going to find, I don't know, another video effect to throw on here. Let's try 4-color gradient. Let's see what happens there. So there's a 4-color gradient. So it throws the 4-color gradient on here. Turn that off. Turn that on. You're like, but that doesn't really help me. Well, for those of you that have been using Photoshop, you see there's a blending mode down here. And you can actually throw multiply on there. And then you can actually blend that through. Let's use overlay. Let's brighten that up a bit. And here's opacity. Right? So you can raise and lower the opacity. You can also see that you can keyframe opacity. So let's do that. I'm going to go 0 opacity here. Let's start at 0. Let's start keyframing the opacity right here. And let's move it to 100 right there. And there you go. Now you've keyframed in a 4-color gradient. Let's say you want to get super tricky and start moving the gradient around and changing the color of the gradient. So I'm going to extend this clip here. Select the clip. You can see that each of the color points are keyframeable. So move that there. I'm now going to go and I'm going to enable all of these keyframes to see what one I want to use and see how what we can do. I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to change the color of this. Double click, change the color there. Double click, change that color. Double click. And you get the point. So if I move back over here, the color is at that position. Move over here, I've keyframed an animated color on my image. You can also move the gradient points around. So if I click on the gradient, I can see the points are here. So if I start going over here, you can see that point is being controlled, and I can move it around. I can just click and drag it and move it over. So that I'm not going to go too crazy about it, but boom, let's hit play. Now I've keyframed the scale and position, and I keyframe gradients on it. So you can do a ton of cool motion things with your still images inside of Premiere. Let's go create a transition between these two clips. I'm going to minimize the generate, minimize the video effects, open up video transitions. Let's check out some immersive video. Let's try a Mobius zoom. Right? I think that's how you say it. It looks kind of cool. So if I drag that here, look at that. There's a Mobius zoom. So hopefully your mind's blown on the power of this program and what you can do with some of your still images. Here's a quick way to deal with gaps as I'm moving along here. Part of you is going to want to select these and then move these over here and close the gap that way. A fast way to do it, select the gap, right click, and ripple delete. And then you can close your gaps together. Right click, ripple delete. Here you go. Boom, boom, boom. So let's say I want to throw a text on there, some titling. What I recommend in Premiere, you can just go to the title thing here, title tool. Click and drag that. And then if you see down here, it adds a little sliver of a title. You know, move it in here, go to the end, move that over. And now I've got the title up a little bit bigger. I'm going to highlight this. Here's where, again, effect controls is where you can control so much. Size of my font here. And the style of font. At any time, if you don't like the scale thing, the slider, you can just click right on that. And then you can go like, type in an amount. And then you can go to your move tool here and you can move this around. Like with everything else, you can also bring these in and float these around and move these around. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So right here, there's your vector motion. So if you want to motion that, you get the text where you want. I'm going to drag it off to the side here. Let's start this here. Move it over. Drag that over here. Hold on a second. Okay, so it was motioning this down here too. So that a little bit confusing. Move this off to the side here. I am finding this a little bit confusing, but anyways, I'm going to go up here to the position and move that over. You can also control the text motion down in here. So for now, I just did it up here. There you go. So you can be moving text around. What I sometimes do is with the text is throw on a simple cross dissolve. So you can go here to the, in the effects, you can actually search for effects. I search for cross dissolve. Drag that here. Make that a certain size, and then I'll fade it in. If you want to fade in something, you can just throw a cross dissolve on there. Likewise, if you go to the end, drag it there, you cross dissolve the end off. Let me delete this and go. I'm going to go video transitions. There are some little tips with wipes and stuff you can try. You can try throwing a transition on a piece of text if you want. So sometimes I tell students throw a gradient wipe on here. Hit OK. And then a gradient wipe will do that. So sometimes if you're just playing around the program, you can kind of find some cool things with text and whatnot to do. Click on that, control there, and then you can go in here. You can change the duration. You can kind of customize things. I'm not going to get into all that, but just figure out the effect thing that you want to kind of get lost in and check it out. So that's how you can do some quick, simple text things inside of Premiere.